Most people remember Magic Johnson for the moments that looked impossible. They remember the dazzling smile, the lightning-fast passes that seemed to come from nowhere, and the towering point guard who transformed basketball into entertainment unlike anything the sport had ever seen. They remember the championships, the MVP trophies, and the unforgettable Showtime Lakers who turned every game into an event. But the greatest challenge of Magic Johnson's life was never played under bright arena lights. It began in complete silence, long before sunrise, before television cameras, before roaring crowds. There was a man sitting alone with a truth that threatened to erase everything he had built. At only 32 years old, while standing at the very peak of his career, Magic Johnson heard three words that changed his life forever: "You are HIV positive." In 1991, those words were widely viewed as a death sentence. There was no promise of a long future. Fear was everywhere. Misinformation spread faster than facts, and millions believed that an HIV diagnosis meant life was already over. Yet the hardest part wasn't facing the disease. It was walking into his own home, looking into the eyes of the woman he had just married, knowing she was expecting their first child, and wondering if he had unknowingly placed both of their lives in danger. Imagine carrying that weight. Imagine wondering whether one mistake could destroy the people you love most. That moment would become the beginning of a battle that no championship ring could prepare him for. Because while the world saw Magic Johnson as a superstar who could overcome anything, every new day became another fight that no crowd would ever witness. There were no referees, no teammates, and no final buzzer to signal the end. Only medicine, only doctor visits, only blood tests, only uncertainty. For more than 3 decades, that invisible battle has continued, behind closed doors, while the public mostly remembers the highlights. But Magic's story ain't only about illness. It's about ambition born in poverty. It's about a young boy who believed his future could be bigger than the neighborhood where he grew up. It's about extraordinary success, painful personal mistakes, broken trust, difficult forgiveness, and the determination to rebuild a life after believing it had already ended. His journey includes breathtaking victories on the basketball court. Heartbreaking conversations inside his own home. Friendships that survived impossible circumstances. Others that fell apart forever. And a marriage tested by challenges few couples could imagine. Today, Magic Johnson is known not only as one of basketball's greatest legends, but also as a successful businessman, philanthropist, husband, father, and one of the world's most recognizable advocates for HIV awareness. But none of those accomplishments came without sacrifice. Behind every smile was another obstacle. Behind every celebration was another reminder that some victories happened far away from public applause. This is not simply the story of an NBA icon. It is the story of a man forced to rebuild his identity after believing he had lost everything. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you've ever been inspired by Magic Johnson's incredible journey. Now, let's go back to where it all began, long before the championships, before Hollywood, before the world knew the name Magic, before the sold-out arenas, the championship celebrations, and the worldwide fame. There was simply a boy named Irvin Johnson Jr. growing up in Lansing, Michigan. He wasn't born into luxury or surrounded by opportunity. His family lived a modest life, where every paycheck mattered and every dollar had a purpose. Success wasn't something people expected, it was something they fought for. Irvin was born on August 14, 1959, to Irvin Sr. and Christine Johnson. Together, they raised a large family built on discipline, faith, and hard work. His father spent long days working at a General Motors assembly plant, and when one shift ended, another often began. To provide for 7 children, he took additional jobs whenever he could, sacrificing sleep so his family would never go without. Young Irvin admired his father deeply. He saw a man willing to exhaust himself for the people he loved. But those endless hours also meant there wasn't much time left for conversations, basketball games in the driveway, or simple moments between father and son. The steady heartbeat of the household was his mother, Christine. She kept the family organized, encouraged education, and made sure every child understood that character mattered just as much as talent. She believed success began with discipline, and that lesson stayed with Irvin for the rest of his life. Basketball wasn't originally about fame. It wasn't about championships. For Irvin, it represented possibility. Every time he stepped onto a court, he imagined a future beyond factory lines and financial struggle. The game became a doorway to a different life, one where dreams weren't limited by the neighborhood where you were born. As a teenager, he worked cleaning offices in a downtown building. One day, after finishing his duties, he wandered into an executive office on the top floor. Curious, he sat behind the large desk, leaned back in the chair, and imagined what it would feel like to one day run a successful company. It lasted only a few moments, but years later, after building a business empire worth hundreds of millions and eventually over $1 billion, Magic would remember that quiet moment with a smile. Even as a teenager, he believed he belonged in rooms that seemed far beyond his reach. His confidence wasn't arrogance. It was vision. On the basketball court, that confidence became impossible to ignore. At Everett High School, Irvin wasn't just scoring points, he was making everyone around him better. He rebounded like a forward, passed like a veteran point guard, and controlled the pace of games with remarkable maturity. During one unforgettable performance, he filled the stat sheet with numbers so extraordinary that a local sports writer struggled to describe what he had witnessed. Instead of calling it a great game, he reached for a different word. Magic. The nickname spread almost overnight. Soon, classmates stopped calling him Irvin. Fans called him Magic. Coaches called him Magic. Reporters called him Magic. The name became larger than the teenager himself, representing creativity, confidence, and the ability to do things no one expected. Yet beneath that famous nickname remained the same hardworking kid who watched his parents sacrifice everything to build a better future. In 1977, Magic led Everett High School to a Michigan State championship, cementing his place as one of the nation's brightest young basketball stars. College recruiters from across America came calling. The future suddenly looked limitless, but with every new opportunity came greater temptation, greater pressure, and greater expectations. The next chapter of his life would introduce to people who would shape his destiny forever. One would become the greatest rival basketball had ever seen. The other would become the woman who stood beside him through the darkest chapter of his life. Neither of them could have imagined how deeply their lives would become connected or how the choices they made would echo for decades to come. By the time Magic Johnson arrived at Michigan State University in 1977, he was already one of the most talked about young basketball players in America. But college would become more than the next step in his athletic career. It would shape the rest of his life in ways no one could have predicted. Off the court, he met a young student named Cookie Kelly. Their connection was immediate. Cookie admired his confidence, warmth, and sense of humor, while Magic found himself drawn to her kindness and unwavering belief in him. Their relationship moved quickly, and before long, he was telling friends and family that he believed she was the woman he would one day marry. Life, however, rarely follows the plans we make at 18. As Magic's popularity grew, so did the distractions that came with fame. College stardom brought attention everywhere he went, and temptation became a constant part of his world. Their relationship would face painful setbacks, moments of disappointment, and difficult decisions that neither of them expected. Even so, the bond between them refused to disappear. While one relationship was beginning, another was about to reshape the sport forever. Hundreds of miles away, in the small town of French Lick, Indiana, another young superstar was making headlines. His name was Larry Bird. Bird couldn't have been more different from Magic. Quiet where Magic was outgoing, reserved where Magic was expressive. Their personalities reflected two completely different worlds. Yet fate was pulling them toward the same stage. Everything came together in the 1979 NCAA championship game. Michigan State faced Indiana State in one of the most anticipated college basketball games ever played. It wasn't simply a battle between two teams, it was the beginning of one of the greatest rivalries in sports history. Millions tuned in to watch. Magic led Michigan State with confidence and energy, controlling the pace of the game and making the players around him better. When the final buzzer sounded, Michigan State had secured the national championship. The victory launched Magic into another level of stardom, but something even bigger had happened. America had discovered Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. From that night forward, their names would be linked forever. Fans debated who was better. Reporters compared every performance, every championship, every award. Every great season would eventually become another chapter in their remarkable rivalry. Just weeks later, the NBA draft arrived. The Los Angeles Lakers selected Magic Johnson with the first overall pick. When he entered the league, professional basketball wasn't the global phenomenon it would later become. Television audiences were smaller. Many arenas weren't consistently full, and the league struggled to capture the attention of mainstream America. Then the Lakers became must-see entertainment. Every fast break felt like a performance. Every no-look pass brought thousands of fans to their feet. Magic played with a style that seemed impossible to predict. Instead of slowing the game down, he sped it up, turning every possession into an opportunity for something unforgettable. People didn't simply watch the Lakers. They experienced them. The nickname Showtime soon became more than a slogan, it became an identity. Playing alongside legends like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, Michael Cooper, Byron Scott, and an outstanding supporting cast, Magic led one of the greatest teams basketball had ever seen. Their chemistry, speed, and creativity transformed ordinary games into unforgettable nights. Soon, celebrities filled the front rows of Lakers. Games. Actors. Musicians. Business leaders. Politicians. Watching the Lakers became one of the hottest tickets in Los Angeles. Magic wasn't only the face of a basketball team anymore. He had become one of the most recognizable athletes in the world. The championships kept coming. The Lakers captured NBA titles in 1980, 1982, 1985, 1987, and 1988, establishing one of the greatest dynasties in professional sports. Along the way, Magic collected league MVP awards, finals MVP honors, and all-star selections, building a resume that placed him among basketball's all-time greats. But every championship celebration had another familiar face waiting on the opposite side. Larry Bird. Their rivalry had followed them from college into the NBA, growing bigger with each passing season. When the Lakers and the Boston Celtics met, it wasn't simply East versus West. It became basketball's biggest stage. Los Angeles represented speed, glamour, and excitement. Boston represented toughness, discipline, and tradition. Every finals matchup between Magic and Bird felt like a battle between two completely different philosophies of basketball. Neither player wanted to lose, yet each understood something the public rarely discussed. They made one another better. Every off-season, Magic wanted to know how Bird had performed. Bird paid just as much attention to Magic. Their competition pushed both players to reach levels they might never have achieved alone. What began as rivalry slowly developed into mutual respect. Years later, both men would admit that their careers were forever connected. Without Larry Bird, Magic Johnson's story would be different. Without Magic Johnson, Larry Bird's story would never feel complete. Off the court, however, another life was unfolding. Los Angeles offered everything a young superstar could imagine. Luxury. Parties. Endless attention. People wanted to be around Magic everywhere he went. His smile, charisma, and growing fame opened doors few people ever experience. The attention became constant. Every road trip brought new invitations. Every city introduced new admirers. The life of an NBA superstar during the 1980s often blurred the line between competition and celebration. Magic later admitted that he embraced that lifestyle. At the time, he believed success meant enjoying every opportunity that came with it. He was young, he was famous, and he rarely stopped to think about where those choices might lead. Meanwhile, one relationship in his life continued to survive every obstacle. Cookie, Kelly remained part of his world. Their journey together was anything but simple. They experienced breakups, reconciliations, moments of deep happiness, and moments of painful disappointment. More than once, it seemed their relationship had reached its end. Yet somehow, they always found their way back to one another. Friends often wondered why. Perhaps, even they couldn't fully explain it. There was simply a connection neither of them could completely let go. By the end of the decade, Magic Johnson appeared to have everything: 5 NBA championships, multiple MVP awards, worldwide fame, financial success, the admiration of millions. He had become the smiling face of professional basketball, but success has a way of creating the illusion that life will always move upward. No one, not the fans, not his teammates, not even Magic himself, could imagine how quickly everything was about to change. Within a few short years, one routine medical examination would bring his basketball career to an abrupt halt and force him into the most difficult battle of his life. The spotlight that had celebrated his greatest victories would soon witness his most heartbreaking announcement. Here's a strong, emotional, copyright-free ending that fits the documentary style without closely copying the original. There are legends whose greatness is measured by championships. Others are remembered for records that may never be broken. Magic Johnson achieved both, but if history remembers him only for basketball, then it misses the most remarkable chapter of his life. The young man who once electrified arenas with impossible passes eventually faced an opponent no athlete could outplay. The game that defined his life ended far sooner than anyone expected, yet his greatest victory began only after the final buzzer. He learned that success cannot erase mistakes, that wealth cannot buy back lost time, that fame cannot protect anyone from fear, and that true courage is always displayed in front of thousands of cheering fans. Sometimes, courage is choosing hope after devastating news. It's taking responsibility for painful choices. It's rebuilding broken relationships. It's showing up for the people you love, day after day, even when the journey is difficult. Over the years, Magic transformed his life beyond basketball. He became a successful entrepreneur, an advocate for HIV awareness, a philanthropist, and a devoted family man. More importantly, he showed millions that an HIV diagnosis does not define a person's future. His story ain't one of perfection. It's a story of resilience. Of accountability. Of growth. Of second chances. Today, when people see Magic Johnson smiling, they see a basketball icon, but behind that familiar smile, a man who has spent decades choosing discipline over despair, gratitude over regret, and purpose over fear. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson his life has to offer. Real strength isn't found in never falling. It's found in standing back up every time life knocks you down. Thank you for watching. If Magic Johnson's journey inspired you, let us know in the comments. What part of his life left the biggest impression on you? The Showtime years, his courage after his diagnosis, his success in business, or the legacy he continues to build today? If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on notifications for more stories that go beyond the headlines. Until next time, thank you for being here and take care.